Naruto exclusive videos Lemon come out on my Boosty. You can watch and subscribe. Link in the description. Enjoy watching. Description: At Gojo Satoru had a fiery red fox under his right collarbone. Naruto had a starry sky with a red star under his right collarbone. Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto. 25 years old. Red hair, whisker scars on his cheeks and blue eyes. A shaman, but has not been trained and tries not to get involved in the affairs of the world of curses and spirits. He is the hereditary carrier of the fox general known as the Nine-Tailed Demon Fox, as well as the head of the Uzumaki clan. Lives an ordinary life. Studies at the university for a second specialty, and ignores curses. Well, if they do not have time to escape from her, Kurama's eerie aura scares any curse that relies on instincts to the point of hiccups. In the clan, for the most part, everyone is independent, but sometimes she shows up on the island in the Bermuda Triangle not only to relax. And she also has a starry sky with a bright red star under her right collarbone. Soulmate mark. Unlike other people, she saw no point in hiding it, because her mate will not recognize her until they touch her skin. Naruto, it's a mixture of sarcasm, cruelty, and kindness. Naruto, this is monstrous strength and incredible vitality. The foster brother and his soulmate, who are already quite famous shamans, have joked more than once that Uzumaki Namikaze will be able, if not to win, then to hold out for quite a long time against the legendary Rimen Sukuna. Naruto rolls his eyes and listens to Kurama, who always says that they will roll this boy into the asphalt between them. Naruto goes to the cemetery on his birthday and listens to the first years of friendship with the fox as he apologizes for killing her parents. Naruto doesn't really care that she is indirectly the cause of her mom and dad's death, because it is not her fault that Kurama was taken under control, just like the fox himself. Naruto walks around the city and tries not to think about the fact that she just felt the appearance of a strong spirit and 5 deaths in the prison area. She is a strong sensor, and also an empath, inherited from the Uzumaki clan. Naruto hates feeling other people's emotions, because very often they do not correspond to what you see. In her memory, the only ones who were honest with her were her past classmates, and a couple of older guys. Well, her godparents and their friend. Naruto doesn't remember how to smile, because she forgot how to do it when Jiraiya, her father's teacher, her godfather and the closest person to her, dies on her 16th birthday. From that day on, happy smiles disappear from her emotions. All sorts of grins and smirks take their place. And then she finds out that she has a younger cousin on her father's side. Although everything is complicated there. Yuji's father was a Gaijin Namikaze on her mother's side, but her mother was 1/3 Uzumaki. She could tell for sure about her relationship with him, but who he was to her. It was very tedious, so they decided to consider each other simply brother and sister. They did not see each other often, but they kept in touch. At least, that was enough for them. They did not flare up with family feelings, but they knew that they had relatives. Naruto knew that his grandfather had died, and she immediately went to him to find her brother in the crematorium. But her brother, who should not have known about shamans and curses, himself became a vessel. The vessel of that very Rimen Sukuna. I wanted to hit him on the head and lecture him on how he shouldn't eat anything. But she's silent and just hugs him, telling him that he can always turn to her. She contacts Sasuke and Sakura, who have influence in the Council of Elders. It was quite easy to attack the elders who wanted to appoint her brother to be executed so that this execution wouldn't happen. Danzo, Hamura and Kotaro laughed for a long time when she personally showed up at the meeting, emitting Kurama's ki and wearing a fox mask. Then she very clearly said that if something happens to Yuji, only those who are for preserving the boy's life will remain from the council. She hasn't seen such pale faces for a long time. Naruto is walking around the city when Shinigami gently ruffles her hair. This only happened if someone dear to her was on the verge of death. And she guessed the identity of the dying person. Yuji. Her brother was on the verge of death. They were not close, but this does not change the fact that they were relatives, and Uzumaki value family more than anything. And she understood perfectly well who was responsible for this. I will grind them into powder, she growled, turning towards a dark alley. She finds herself in her house in the Uzumaki district in a matter of seconds. Once there, she puts on a yukata and a fox mask. I even feel sorry for those people from the council, thought Kurama, and closed the cage, hiding in the farthest corner. Just in case, Gojo exhaled. He hadn't expected the council to send Sukuna's vessel on a mission where he would definitely die. But he was even more surprised when one of the council called him while he was in the morgue. Gojo Satoru. The panicked voice of the old man from the council caused misunderstanding. Please tell me Itadori Yuji is alive. What? The blonde blinked in confusion and looked at the equally surprised Yuji, who had already gotten dressed. They'll just kill us now for sending him on that mission. Another voice was heard. Kitsunheim. Please calm down. Silence, mortal. A female voice with a growling tone sounded quite loudly. I warned you back then. I'm alive. Itadori intercepted his phone. No need to kill them. Silence was his answer. Too kind a child. Shimura, stop laughing. Dobe, you are incorrigible. Uchiha. And the challenge is over. Gojo doesn't understand anything at all, Naruto exhaled. Coming to Tokyo to relax was really a good idea. If only I could buy something tasty, everything would be great. Already sitting in the cafe, she felt a piercing gaze, but not with desire or hatred, but simply curious. In this cafe, she had agreed to meet Yuji, who promised to introduce her to his new friends. And the teacher, if he was bored, and he would follow them. No-san. Naruto turned towards the entrance where Itadori and two other teenagers were standing. Uzumaki Namikaze slightly narrowed his eyes, which flashed red for a moment, sensing Sukuna's aura, which was stronger than last time. Yo, she waved her hand lazily, leaning back in her chair. The guy flies up to her table and falls into the place next to her. His companions approach slowly, looking at her intently. Naruto raises an eyebrow when he sees the two of them have visible parts of the marks on both wrists, just like Yuji himself. Unexpectedly, Kurama, watching everything with her eyes, whistled. It's rare to see triads. Naruto completely agrees with her battle partner. Triads, a rarity. Guys, meet my sister. Yuji smiles brightly at his couples, who look at him with tenderness. Namikaze Naruto, she says her last name, under which she is listed at the university, because this last name was not known in shamanic circles, unlike her father's nickname. I hope this walking collection of troubles and surprises does not cause you any problems. What do you? Resounds above her head. Gojo Satoru. The teacher of these three kids. Naruto narrows his eyes at the ash-blonde boy and looks at the disgruntled brunette, noting that the girl grabbed his hand under the table. Fushiguro Megumi, the guy exhales, looking at this very teacher with a little irritation. Kujisaki Nobara, the girl nodded, squeezing the brunette's hand a little tighter. Are you going on a date? Naruto tilted her head to the side, noticing her brother blushing slightly. Then I won't hold you up and I won't let him follow you. The man leaned over to look at her with interest. He was clearly interested in how she would hold him up. And how? Yuji smiles, closing his eyes to hide the mischievous glint. I haven't had a date in a long time, and this is also a chance to find out about your studies. The red-haired woman shrugged her shoulders, noting with pleasure the surprise in the man's eyes, which she was able to see through the dark glass of her glasses. So run, kids. You're the best, Naru. The guy flies up to her and kisses her on the cheek, and then drags his soulmates out of the cafe by the hands. Naruto turns his gaze to Gojo, who is apparently the same powerful shaman that they are used to putting on display, completely forgetting about her and Sasuke, because they are the heirs of the Sage of the Six Paths and the owners of the power of the gods. Of course, I wasn't serious when I talked about a date, but I want to know how Yuji spends his time. The next moment, they look at her with ugly offendedness. But we can go for a walk, if you don't mind. Gojo Satoru was interesting and somewhat funny. Naruto squinted slightly and dodged his mock embrace, because no one likes it when a stranger touches you. And it was not customary to touch someone else's skin on the first meeting. Gojo-san, she turned her head towards him, still trying to look at his eyes. Why did you insist on a date, and not a casual conversation? Well, the man looked at the sky. I don't know myself. Intuition, probably. Naruto exhaled and gently ran her hand over his skin, feeling a discharge of something warm that rolled from the tips of her fingers to the top of her head. This is definitely karma, Kurama muttered. Saiko was that boy's soulmate, and you got the six-eyed one. What did I do, huh? It was fate that took care of it in advance, she answers. And don't bother me at all. Naruto knows Gojo didn't notice anything, because girls are more sensitive to this. Okay, she exhales and takes out a piece of paper and a pen to scribble down her number. Here. If something happens to Yuji, call me. The man takes the piece of paper with the numbers and looks over his glasses, a little upset. Uzumaki twitches and looks fascinated into the stranger's eyes, framed by snow-white eyelashes. Is it possible to just write like that? He asks with a slightly incomprehensible intonation. Ken, she nods favorably, ignoring her heart that has started to beat wildly. But keep in mind that I won't be able to go on dates sometimes, because I don't live in Tokyo. Okay, he raises his hands in a conciliatory manner and smiles slyly. And since you don't live here, you can stay with me. The girl burst into laughter and shook her head, turning around and taking the first step away from the blonde. And it is also advisable not to write at night. I don't want to break my daily routine, she throws without turning around and raises her right hand to wave. Her heart continued to beat at a fairly fast pace. That same day, Gojo wrote to her. She even smiled with the very tips of her lips, which scared the hell out of some old man from the council. Did something good happen? Danzo opened his eyes slightly. As you can see, she quickly scribbled down a reply and looked coldly at the pale elders. Now, back to the reason I'm here. Sukuna's vessel. If he dies, you'll go to the Shinigami's stomach. Sukuna is dangerous, and if the guy loses control, someone started playing the old hurdy-gurdy again. Keep quiet. The red hair rose up and began to flutter. I have said everything. Once he goes to the other world, you will become very closely acquainted with the patron of my clan. Naruto knew that her own aura was now beginning to merge with Kurama's power. It was a terrifying sight, since her ki was already quite powerful, but after mixing it with the concentrated bloodlust of the Nine Tails, Kamer, Inuzuka Tsumeoned, even though her Niken was ready to pounce on Naruto at any moment. Here only half dreams of getting rid of Sukuna. The second, somehow, does not care. Tsum did not lie, because the part that knew that Sukuna was a member of the Uzumaki clan and was also her distant ancestor, would never go against her word. Perhaps this was the most guarded secret that could be entrusted only to the most reliable people. Naruto exhaled and got up from the chair. Her hair had already fallen, but it moved menacingly. It was creepy, but not even all Uzumaki could boast of such a trait. The main branch, which for more than a dozen generations had been carriers of the Fox General. Strongly distracting? It's just that my kids have physical education now, and I'm bored. Minutes 5 wait Ivy bathroom. Oh okay, Naruto. Felt her eye twitch. Even Sai didn't suffer from such impudence, and one of Danzo's students was a famous troll. Bummer, I already got out and got dressed. After sending this message, she teleported to her apartment in Tokyo using the Horatian mark. Then date? At me personally already know today lessons and others important affairs. Naruto bit her lip. She liked the idea of going for a walk with her soulmate. And since he invited her, he enjoyed her company too. What will say your soulmate if you his? Did you find it? Me that without differences. I his own not found and on connection at me a little another sight. Naruto put the phone down and thought about her own words. If it weren't for this hassle with the predestined, would she have also turned her gaze to Gojo? It's quite possible, because Uzumaki has a rather unusual perception of this connection. There seems to be a connection, but it seems not. Direct proof of this is Aunt Sorano and her husband Yagura, who were not soulmates. Nobody knew what happened to their couples, but they had been together for several years and their children were no weaker than pure-blooded scarlet-haired devils. Although Aunt herself was only half Uzumaki, like Naruto herself, But Sorano was Otsutsuki, which made her almost immortal. She was born even before Sukuna and managed to catch his appearance in the clan, as well as chase this negligent groom of one of the princesses. Naruto knew part of it from Aunt Sorano's words, and the other part from Kurama's memories. Well, probably mine. Related soul was wood against, but I not met his own soulmate. It means that to me not before by whom make excuses. Naruto exhaled and immediately froze when another message came in. I just want to conduct with you more a little time. Naruto looked at these words, feeling warmth spreading somewhere inside. Shall we meet? The date was the same as the last one, but it was different. Gojo constantly wanted to touch her, but he stopped himself every time. And his gaze often fell on the visible edges of her mark. Untidy strokes of dark color on pale skin and a beam of red color cutting through that same darkness with white dot stars. Interesting. When she was already a little tired of his flickering glance at her collarbones. I can show you. She saw the dumbfounded eyes even behind the dark glasses. She was not afraid that he would see the powerful cursed power that distinguished her from ordinary people. Even as a 5-year-old child, she did not like the fact that people sensitive to cursed energy were afraid of her. She was not loved, she was hated and despised, but this did not prevent her from learning that she was one of the heirs of the past head of the Uzumaki clan. Creating seals was in her blood. She learned this sitting in Danzo's house, who told her about her mother and her father. She created many of her own seals, but her pride was the invisible seal. This seal was immediately applied to the body with her own blood, and then fixed with cursed energy. But nothing was perfect. She suffered for almost 2 days, because her strength was leaking very quickly. Kurama also had to join in so that his cell would not die. So they fed this seal for a total of 3.5 days. And after the seal was saturated with her power, Naruto became invisible not only to sensitive people, but also to any barrier, curtain. She could enter someone else's territory without any problems. So, pushing away the thoughts that she was just a person to him, Naruto tilted her head to the side. If you're interested, I can show it to you. Gojo sniffed the air, trying not to think about how quickly they had switched to the informal you in their conversation. And he was the one who started addressing her that way, and she apparently didn't mind. Well, I don't mind myself. The blonde looked away, burying his hand in his hair. But isn't that personal? Naruto giggled. In her circle, no one saw the point in hiding their marks. For example, Sakura had a plum branch between her shoulder blades, the blossoms of which Sasuke adored. The Uchiha himself had a Sakura branch between his shoulder blades. Naruto snorted and grabbed his hand with his own, which was in a black glove. A precaution. She pulls him into the most unpopulated part of the park. She had walked here many times and knew every tree. She knew that no one came to the lake, where she was leading the blonde, because there were curses there, which appeared due to the frequent self-drowning of unhappy lovers. And with some pleasure she felt, even through the thick fabric of her gloves, how someone else's fingers were intertwined with hers. She stopped after a minute of walking and immediately turned around. There had been no curses in this place for a long time, because 1 hour of Uzumaki's presence in this place frightened all the evil spirits. I haven't shown this place to anyone, she says, feeling her lips form a long-forgotten smile. You're the first one I brought here. She turns to see Gojo looking at the scenery. Her heart flipped as she looked at him. A light breeze ruffled his snow-white hair and the sun, which had peeked out from behind the clouds, illuminated him. Hey, she lets go of his hand, but he doesn't let go of hers. We came here so that I could show you my mark. Naruto pulls back the collar of his shirt, revealing the night sky with a red star and the strap of a burgundy bra. It seems that it is because of the latter that the tips of the ears of the shaman opposite her turn red. Beautiful, he exhales and swallows. Naruto continues to smile and squints playfully, letting go of the collar of his own t-shirt. Glad to know you like the view, not just a mark, but also a strap. Naruto is generally hard to embarrass, especially after reading all the rough works of her late godfather. And the fact that she is a half-blood does not change anything. Well, Gojo looked away, the tips of his ears almost glowing with paint. She is quite unusual, I know. Naruto falls onto the grass under the tree, staring thoughtfully at the inlet surface of the lake. All my friends have marks that indicate something their mate likes. Although my relative and her mate had their names. Names? The blonde sits down next to her. Strange, they are both very stubborn, Uzumaki Namikaze shrugged. But despite the fact that they got together later than the others, they were the first to have a child. Naruto smiles slightly, remembering Suki, Karen and Suigetsu's daughter. She enjoyed spending time with Sasuke and Sakura's goddaughter, as the girl had the same temperament as Naruto. I wish everyone had names and not pictures. Gojo thoughtfully runs his hand over his collarbones. And I wish. And thunderstruck. Naruto and Satoru looked at each other in confusion and looked up at the sky. When did the sky become covered with thunderclouds? Uzumaki Namikaze blinked and immediately jumped up from her seat, grabbing the blonde by the hand. Let's go find a place to take shelter from the rain. Naruto knows that he could have stayed under the trees, but I don't like rain. Jiraiya died on a rainy day in her arms. She never liked rainy weather after that. Something bad always happened on those days. At some point, she was the one being pulled. Gojo was in front, and she had his jacket on her shoulders, standing under the canopy and watching the rather heavy rain, while wrapping herself in a warm jacket was unusual, but pleasant. Naruto glanced sideways at Satoru, who was standing quite close to her. I can't stand this weather, says Uzumaki, leaning against the wall and closing his eyes. Why so? Even though she can't see him, Naruto is the best sensor and can feel that he's leaning over a little. It was raining on my 16th birthday, she answers a little later. And on the same day, my godfather, who had replaced my parents, died. Perhaps, in 9 years, it was the first time she said these words. Sasuke and Sakura understood her with one look in the eyes and did not need to be told anything. Tsunade and Orochimaru understood her quite well too. There was no need to talk about Sensei. I'm sorry. Naruto slightly raises his eyelids and looks at the man. I didn't think there was anything like this here. Yes, it's okay. The lips once again form a smile, albeit a slight one. Since that moment, by the way, I can't smile normally. But now you're smiling, Gojo says with a slight hint of surprise. She giggled and poked him in the chest with her finger. This is the first time in 9 years. Naruto lowers his hand and looks into the glasses, hoping to see the heavenly ones again. Truly heavenly, the eyes of his soulmate. And 30 seconds later Kurama thought. He takes off his glasses and slowly leans towards her face. You know that moment when everything around you disappears and only the person in front of you remains? Naruto experienced it herself now. But, as a rule, such moments are interrupted. When there were only a couple of centimeters left between their lips, if not less, Naruto's phone rang. She only played this funeral melody for the guys from Akatsuki. And they rarely called her. Well, she played a different melody for Nagato and Obito, because they were both close to her. Uzumaki Namikaze put her hand on the blonde's chest with disappointment, and with the other she took out a phone, on the screen of which was the contact, cultist. Why is Hyden calling me? What happened, Hyde? She immediately picks up the phone. In short, why did they attack the big-eyed man with the fish? The Jashinist answered sharply. I don't care where you are, I need your help. Since any Uzumaki can filter such speech, because they know as much as any follower of Jashin, Naruto, I realized that Itachi and Kisame were attacked, and there were no medics nearby who could help. I'll be there soon. She turns off the phone. Sorry, but I have to run. Family problems? It's okay, I understand. Gojo smiled brokenly and moved away a little. You can return the jacket next time. She only nods and puts it on normally. All she can do is escape from his eyes, and then teleport using the Thunder God mark that Itachi had. Why? She barked at Hyden, who was now suggesting that they go and sacrifice everyone. They decided to get rid of the strongest. And to test their strength on you. No need to get involved in this. But... Suddenly Hyden's mouth was covered with paper. She's right, Conan exhaled. Nagato and Yahiko decided that we wouldn't get involved in this. We mercenaries. They suffered during the mission, but they completed it. That's the main thing. Until we are given an order to destroy these curses, we do not interfere. Naruto closed her eyes in agreement. Akatsuki is an organization of mercenaries and it is not in their rules to do something for free. No, they can give a discount, but not more than 50%. Naruto only connects them with the fact that she is a relative of Nagato and the daughter of Obito's mentor. Well, she is also the foster sister of Sasuke, who is Itachi's younger brother, but there is a long history with the murder of parents and the expulsion of the eldest from the clan. Okay, they just wrote to me that there was a raid on the library, or more precisely, on the closed section. She examines everyone. I'll bring you the one who attacked them. And I'll pay you to play with him. Yuji was so scared for the first time. Sukuna, who was somehow temporarily pulled out of his body, although Itadori felt a connection with the curse, glared at the boy with displeasure. Will they survive? Rimen says, continuing to treat Megumi and Nobara. Yuji himself does not understand why this one is treating them. It is definitely not for nothing. Gojo-sensei has not yet been sealed, and that was only thanks to Uchiha-san, who is currently fighting off the resurrected and curses, while his cursed energy was sealed by a red-haired woman, who, it seems, controlled the resurrected dead. His wife was currently treating Nanamine, whom Mahito only touched. This caused admiration, because before that she was pierced in the lung area, and the wound was no longer there. As Sukuna said, this is not a reverse technique, but something else, while there was something nostalgic in his voice. Can you free me or what? Gojo-sensei almost growls at Yamanaka-san, who is trying to free him from the incomprehensible thing that did not manage to close completely because of Uchiha-san. Calm down, the woman growled and smiled a little. Guys. Our she-devil has been running around the curtain for a minute now and dragging people out of the boundaries. Couldn't you tell me earlier? Uchiha-san deflected an attack from a man who looked very similar to Megumi. Wait, Sakura-san looked at Yamanaka-san. She was in Yuzushio. Who are you talking about? Sukuna glanced at the women with boredom, not looking up from his treatment of Megumi and Nobara. About the head of the Uzumaki clan, Sasuke intercepts his sword. So you can relax when she comes. Bold statement, man. Fushiguro Sr. chuckled. Although you lasted a long time. If your powers weren't sealed, we would have lost. And now the main thing, Uchiha-san began to sink to the ground. I could never defeat her in a one-on-one fight. Almost all the resurrected rushed at him, and at that moment a clap of thunder was heard. Naruto somewhat hates the sound of thunder when teleporting. But sometimes she even likes it. She appears next to Sasuke, scattering the resurrected ones who attacked her brother, while noticing two familiar ones among them. Her father and mother. Well, and her grandfather, who she saw in the photos of the former head of the clan and, concurrently, her uncle. Since she threw some of them away with kicks and was in the air, Naruto intercepts the dropped keyed kunai of her father with the cursed power that she accumulated in her leg. The kunai is sent to the man, in whose body there was not only a curse, but also the soul itself. How unlucky you are, Geto! He, of course, dodged, but with a new clap of thunder she appears above his shoulder and inflicts a wound with the same kunai, which she immediately sent in the direction of her father. She herself again teleported to Sasuke and already with him closer to Sakura. And all this in just a few seconds. The next moment she finds herself next to Yuji, examining him for wounds. Nei-san? Be quiet, she looked briefly into his eyes, pouring her damned energy to heal all the wounds. I still want to give you a lecture from our first meeting, after your grandfather's death. Can I leave these three to you? The last phrase was for Sukuna, who only nodded, while Yuji hissed because of the not very pleasant sensations. He knew that the cursed energy flows through the body through channels. And these channels were now burning because of the unusually hot energy of his sister. Usually he feels someone else's cursed energy cool, if there is little of it, and almost icy, if there is a lot. But he is used to it. Here, hot lava was flowing through the channels and he was constantly shuddering, and then he realized that all his wounds had simply disappeared. Naruto at that moment approached Yamanaka, leaning on her shoulders, sharing his strength. Satoru looked at Naruto carefully, intently, noticing what he had not been able to notice before. His arms were not so thin. Muscle mass was visible, although not so obvious. And barely noticeable patterns, symbols, the meaning of which he did not know. As I understand it, this nasty thing feeds on the damned power? The red-haired girl moves away from Ino, and no one can understand how Uzumaki brought the blonde's energy back to normal so quickly. Right, Yamanaka smiles and immediately hiccups when Naruto squats down in front of Gojo and touches his forehead with his own. Naruto? But neither she nor Satoru heard anything now. There were only eyes opposite, and warmth that passed like a discharge through the whole body and returned to the marks. Gojo is speechless, but he couldn't say anything even if he did. I'm glad I wasn't mistaken in my conclusions, otherwise I would have had to go against the law of soulmates. Naruto moves away, and only now Satoru understands that his reserve is full, and the gates that bind him fearfully release him and bounce as far as possible, becoming a cube again. Something hot flows through the channels. Satoru understands that he is used to the icy force and what he feels now. Naruto's cursed energy was very warm. Uzumaki turns to Geto, who was holding back his own hand, which made several sharp movements. What? Sasuke exhaled and looked at Naruto, who nodded sharply. What the? Madara, Yuzuru Tanki? I'll explain the topic later. Uzumaki waves his hand and takes out a porcelain fox mask from his spatial pocket. If the name of the head of the Scarlet Devil clan was unknown in the world of shamans, it does not mean that no one knew about the former captain of the Root ANBU division of the Konoha organization. Red hair, a fox mask, and no mercy for the enemy. Bloody rubies with animal pupils sparkle in the slits of the eyes. Fast, a panic thought flashes through Uzumaki's mind. Even Zen and Toji can't quite keep up. Even her father can't keep up. Naruto slices the air near Mahito's neck with his tanto. Kia, she looks at her brother, trying to figure out how to defeat her. We can still. No, the man exhales. We've come so far and you want to she'll kill us, Kia. The woman exclaimed. Not right away, no. The clan council. She'll deliberately give us over to them to be eaten. And if you remember her relationship with one of the Akatsuki leaders, she'll give you to them. The man shudders and looks at the head of his clan, who is now kicking Mahito in the stomach. Splashes of blood appeared on the porcelain mask. We will win, Kia exhales. No matter how strong she was, everyone had weaknesses. Kaya pursed her lips, but didn't argue. She just knew that this woman had one weakness. Itadori Yuji. But this weakness was now next to the two-faced one, who would hardly give a chance to kill his vessel, because they were still connected. Can I ask you something? Namake's Minato looks through the slits, seeing bloody eyes. Your name. And your connection with Shimura Danzo. Naruto spun the tanto and glanced at her mother. Well, it was an opportunity to talk to them, but she wasn't just wearing a mask right now. She was in a special forces uniform, which meant she had no right to show emotion without reason. Minato was the head of Konoha, albeit not for long. And she was taught to listen to people who were higher in rank than her. Yes, she was the head of the clan, but now her father was in front of her. The one who sealed Kurama into her. A golden chain, with a slightly red outline, threw back the resurrected ones who attacked her from behind and the curse. My name is Uzumaki Namake's Naruto. I am Shimura's foster child Danzo, and the head of the Uzumaki clan. Minato flinches, looking at her with wide eyes. How old are you? Kushina twitches slightly towards her, but she is clearly not allowed to come up and hug her like she wanted. I am 25 years old. Naruto turns his head slightly and everyone can hear the softness in her voice. Now I see that Danzo-sama and Mikoto-san weren't joking when they said that I have my dad's eyes, but everything else I got from you, Mom. Naruto feels everyone's surprise and shock. Only Sasuke, Sakura and Ino didn't react to her words. It was no secret to them whose daughter Naruto was. Fushiguro Toji laughed very loudly, as did her grandfather. Now I understand that it was not in vain that Kushina ran away from the clan when she found out about our engagement. Told Toji that he ran away that same day, said Arai, looking at his daughter, who deigned to blush slightly. And anyway, granddaughter, which Jubi is considered the strongest by Gojo? I just remembered how Madara in the afterlife, laughing, said that the Uzumaki Uchiha duel would enslave the world. We don't know, Naruto answered at the same time as Sasuke, looking away. And it was at that moment that Uzumaki Kia attacks Naruto from behind. Only he is wrapped in a chain and meets the mocking eyes of his clan leader. And this is a former candidate for the place of the head of the clan. Naruto shakes his head as Kia tries to get out. You're lucky that I never fight at full strength. Valley of the End? Ino raises an eyebrow. Sasuke is the only one who survives, she waved it off. Madara? Sakura immediately asks. He almost became a god, the red-haired girl shrugs. And I'm already pissed off about everything. So, she creates many clones that use chains, binding both the resurrected and the curses, leaving only Geto. I can't believe I'm using this again and not against Sasuke. Naruto slowly raises his palms to chest level, clapping his hands. Expansion of territory. The cold began to open up behind her. Temple of the God of Death. And darkness covered her and the brunette dot. No, old man. Little one. He's dangerous. It's not for nothing that he has a special class too. I have a special class too. But if my word isn't enough for you, I'll make you a blood oath right now. Don't even think about it. Better explain why you need it? By the way, yes, Dobe, Sasuke intervened. Satoru, who was sitting next to Suguru, because of whom this quarrel had occurred, even looked gratefully at the Uchiha. Look at his mark under his hair, the red-haired woman waved her hand, looking intently at the head of the Zenin clan. And the brunette looked. To immediately curse terribly, and immediately take Uzumaki's side in the dispute. Sakura-san? Geto looked at the pink-haired girl who was checking his condition and who saw that very mark. At Hughes Hinata is the same, she said calmly. Gojo-san, what about you, Fox? He answers, not taking his eyes off Naruto, simply devouring her with his eyes. Now he saw that every movement was simply perfect. It was a little annoying, because even he made unnecessary movements, but then pride took over, that it was she who was destined for him by fate. Oh, Yamanaka drawled. I'm already scared to imagine your children. Eh? Satoru and Sugura looked at the blonde. As a rule, children of strong soulmates are born much stronger than their parents. Naruto explains that she was able to win the argument, not without Sasuke's help, but still. But with Uzumaki there are big exceptions. Take that same Aunt Sorano and her husband. It's not the souls, but the children who are the real monsters. Itadori, I agree to stay inside your body for the rest of your life, Rimen suddenly says. The main thing is never meet Uzumaki Otsutsuki Sorano. Kadarachi Uzumaki Otsutsuki Sorano, the voice of an ash-blonde woman with violet eyes is heard behind him. Sukuna immediately rushes as far away from the woman as possible. Naruto? Watching an unfamiliar blonde chase the legendary king of curses, Satoru gently touches her hand, trying to suppress the urge to hug her tightly. It's a long story, she slightly twitches the corner of her lips and looks into his eyes. I can tell she's older than Tenjin. Much. Gojo nods and still can't help but pull the redhead into a hug. Naruto, she laughed softly and stood on her tiptoes, pulling the blonde man by the collar of his clothes. I've wanted to do this for quite some time, and gently touches his lips with hers. From the side there were approving exclamations, whistles, hoots and laughter from Aunt Sorano and Sukuna.